Hi everyone, and welcome to The Nudge. This is Cecile Ahrens, and I have a clinical practice in San Diego, California called Transcend Therapy. And today's topic I want to dedicate to all the victims of gun violence and their loved ones. This is my way of joining the conversation on comprehensive gun reform, but I'm not here to politicize this issue. The intention of this video is to inform you guys and empower you in the event that you suspect that somebody may be at risk for hurting themselves or other people. Just a little bit about myself on this topic. I am certainly not an expert. That's my disclaimer. However, I feel like as a mother, I can talk about this and I should be able to talk about this. But professionally speaking, I also used to do or conduct what we call workplace violence threat assessments. So I do have experience in assessing different levels of threat and making recommendations, but in the workplace setting, not in school shootings or school settings. So that's all I want to say about that. Can we prevent school shootings? That's a controversial question. In some circles, they say, yes, we can, if you can recognize the threat and the signs and have certain policies and processes in place. And other schools of thought are saying probably not, but we can try to reduce the incidents in which this happens. In my experience, typically the perpetrator has shown some indications, some red flags leading up to the actual event. So that's not always the case, but, oftentimes that is the case, in my experience. The statistics show that the majority of perpetrators at school shootings are male students. So that's just kind of a bit of color for you. Male students and use of weapons or guns. What are some of the red flags? Well, the obvious one is when somebody is actually expressing that they want to hurt themselves or other people. Either they're doing that verbally or on their social media sites, they're posting that or hinting at that, or they wrote a letter to somebody, or you heard that they told another student that they're thinking of that. So anytime you have that kind of information, please report that immediately, okay? And you can tell like your school staff, your parents, law enforcement, if it rises to that level, or if you have a threat assessment team. Some schools are starting to employ threat assessment teams. Other red flags include fantasizing about violence. Do they have an actual history of violence or aggression? Do they have access to guns or weapons? Do they have an unhealthy interest or preoccupation with weapons, school shootings, violence? Do they have a history of mental health problems that are not, being managed or treated sufficiently? Do they have, or do they just have a history of mental health problems? I mean, that's just something to kind of file away in your mind. Do they seem like a loner? Do they have those kinds of qualities? Do they seem depressed, disconnected? Do they lack empathy or remorse? Do they seem like they regret things if they're getting in trouble for something? Do they seem like they care about that? Or are they just, appearing as if it's not a big deal and, not showing a whole lot of remorse or empathy? Are they repeating the aggressive behaviors? Are they learning from that? Do they want to stop? Do they want to change? Or are they just like, yeah, whatever? Those kinds of qualities. Are they exhibiting delusional thinking or what we call psychotic symptoms where, they're erratic, unusual, bizarre. They seem like they're talking to themselves or someone else who isn't there. Things of that nature. Do they seem, their physical appearance, do they seem off, disheveled, just, not really taking care of themselves? Just something's off and you can't put your finger on it. So the thing I want you to know about warning signs is just because they have one or two, it doesn't mean they're going to do something. It's really the cluster of symptoms that professionals look at, and the history as well helps us a lot when we're assessing the level of threat or the viability of the threat. But it's not your job to do that. It's not your job to determine whether the threat is viable. It's not your job to assess. Leave that to the proper authorities. Really, the intent for today is for you guys to just have kind of a broader understanding of some of the red flags so that you can feel like you can be more informed and also feel like, oh, I have options. I can talk to people about this, and it doesn't matter whether I'm wrong or not. I can express my concerns. It's better to be safe than sorry. And I don't mean that in an insensitive way. So what can you do beyond reporting? You can also mobilize your peers and your parents if you feel that the school is not taking appropriate action, or if you feel like law enforcement isn't taking appropriate action. Although, because it's been happening so much, I think people are becoming more aware and taking these signs a lot more seriously. But that's another option. And don't engage or confront the person you suspect who may be dangerous. Try to stay neutral and respectful of them. Keep your distance. Skip school if you're really concerned about your safety. Of course, talk to your parents about that first, but it really isn't worth it to put yourself at risk. When in doubt, I recommend staying home. And talking to a therapist. If this is something that's really impacting you, and impacting your functioning, or you just want some support around this, please call a therapist or a support group or a local crisis line and get some support for yourself. There's a lot of anxiety that a lot of people are feeling these days about this particular issue. So it's totally normal for you to have some feelings about that, even if there are no current threats or concerns at your school. Okay? So that's it. That's pretty much all I wanted to talk about as far as this subject. And again, I'm not trying to politicize this issue. I really just wanted to, join the national conversation and do my part in being part of the solution. So to end, I just want to let all students and teachers and school staff know that I think it is incredibly sad that you have to be in an environment where you have to worry about your safety, where you have to think about how to mitigate or address these issues in a learning environment, where you have to worry about your life and the life of your loved ones for every parent that has to send their child to school. I just want to acknowledge the pain and the fear that all of these mass murders in our schools are doing to parents and teachers and law enforcement, those who have to respond, and first responders as well, and school counselors. The impact is real and far-reaching. So I hope that together we can find real solutions and that we don't tire in our efforts to advocate for comprehensive gun reform. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your time and attention, because we all need a little nudge. This is Cecile Ahrens.